Hey guys, and welcome back. In today's class, we'll be doing a full body yoga flow to help those for both beginners and intermediates. So to begin, we're going to start off in a child's pose in the back of our mat with our knees either together or as wide as our mat. And then we're just going to lay our hands out in front of us and sink our head and our chest down to the mat. From here, we're just going to take a few deep breaths as we settle in and prepare for our practice. Breathing in through the nose and sighing it all out through the mouth. We're then going to push ourselves up into our hands and our knees with our shoulders stacked over our hips, or over our hands and our hips stacked over our knees. From here, we're just going to have our fingers point out to the sides, opposite sides of the mat, and we're just going to sway back and forth over our wrists, just getting some movement in and getting them nice and warm. And then after that, we can just swap our hands so our palms are facing up, fingers facing to each other, and just keep on going. Feeling a nice stretch in our wrists. And then coming back to center, having our palms facing down, fingers facing forward. We're going to take a deep breath in, and as we do, we're going to dip our bellies down, lifting our chin, looking as high as we can. And then as we exhale, bringing our chin to our chest, rounding our backs out. Inhale to dip and look up for cow, and exhale for cat. Meeting me back in neutral position. We're then going to kick our legs back into a high plank, holding for a breath as we push the ground away before lifting our hips up and pushing back into a downward facing dog. Pedaling our dog out for a little bit, bending one knee at a time, just getting our legs nice and warm. Then coming back to stillness, focusing on trying to keep a nice straight back, head nice and loose. Then inhale, lifting our right leg, keeping it nice and straight. And then as we exhale, we're going to bend our knee, bring it to our chest before placing our foot between our hands. And then lifting up for a high crescent lunge before opening our arms out in the cactus and bending back for a nice heart opener. Holding for a breath before placing our hands back down on the mat, kicking back into a high plank. And then as we exhale, we're going to lower our knees down to the mat and then gently bringing our chest and our chin down to the ground. And as we inhale, we're going to lift our chest up as high as we can, maybe even hovering our hands off the mat for a baby cobra. Before exhaling, placing our hands back, taking our hips up and pushing back into a downward facing dog. Moving on with our left leg, kicking it up as we inhale. Exhale, bending it and bringing our foot between our hands and pushing up for a high crescent lunge. Opening up and as we bend our back. Holding for a breath. And then as we exhale, placing our hands back down on the mat. Inhale to come to a plank. And then for here, we can exhale. You can either bend your knees or you can keep them straight as we lower our whole entire body down. And as we inhale, keeping our hands on the mat, pushing our upper bodies up for cobra, or maybe even lifting our thighs off the mat for up dog. Before finally tucking our toes and pushing back into a downward facing dog. Inhale for right leg going up. Exhale to place foot between the hands. Inhale to come up for a high crescent lunge. Then as we exhale, we're going to straighten our front leg, kicking our back leg up and keeping our bodies in a nice T shape for a warrior three. You can either keep your hands at heart center, behind, or out in front of you, whichever is most comfortable. Holding for a breath as we pick a spot in front of us just to help out with our balance. Before finally lowering your back foot onto the mat and bringing your hands down, kicking back into a plank. And then as we exhale, lowering down for chaturanga. Inhale for your back bend of choice. As we exhale to push back into downward facing dog. Moving on to our left side, left leg going up. Bringing our foot between the hands as we exhale. Pushing up for an inhale. And then exhale, pushing forward into a warrior three. Making sure to try and keep our hips as in line as possible, and maybe even keeping a slight bend in our grounded leg, just to help with balance. Holding for a breath, before bringing your back leg back onto the mat, hands down, kicking back into a high plank. Exhale to lower, inhale to bend, and back into downward facing dog. Right leg going up, placing our foot between the hands, pushing up for high crescent lunge, and then pushing forward for warrior three. And then from here, we're going to bring our back foot back onto the mat, having our back toes face to the side of the mat, front toes facing forward, hands out. And then we're going to pull up our hips and bring our shoulders down for triangle pose, placing our hands either in front or behind our front leg, keeping the legs straight. Finally exhaling, placing both hands back down on the mat, kicking back into a high plank, lowering down, bending back, and pushing back into downward facing dog. Moving on to your left side, left leg going up, bending it down, placing between the hands, lifting up for high crescent lunge. Exhale to warrior three. And then bring your back foot back, toes facing to the side, straightening your front leg, arms out to the side of you, and then pushing your hips back and tilting your whole upper body up, bringing down for Trikonasana. Holding for a breath. Or finally bring both hands back down to the mat, and then you know where to go from here. Moving on to the last part of the flow, right leg going up. Exhale to place between the hands, lifting up for an inhale, moving forward for warrior three, bringing our back foot down, and leg straight for Trikonasana. Then placing our left hand down onto the mat, bending our front leg, and then raising our right hand up for an easy twist. Placing that hand back down, kicking back into a plank, lowering down as we exhale. Inhale to push up, and exhale to push back. Moving on to the last part of the flow for this side, left leg going up, getting it as nice as high as we can. Exhale, placing foot between the hands, lifting up for high crescent lunge as we open up our chest. Exhaling to come for warrior 3. Bringing our back foot down, front leg straight, arms coming down for Trikonasana, triangle pose. And then finally bringing now our right hand down and left hand up with our front leg bent. And then bringing our hands down, kicking back into plank, and going through our last vinyasa, really holding it as much as we can. Exhale to go down. Inhale for one last push. And exhale for downward facing dog. Well done. From here now, we're going to walk our hands back towards our feet as we stand at the back of the mat with a nice little forward fold, letting our bodies hang for a bit, swaying from side to side, maybe even grabbing our elbows for a ragdoll. Before finally releasing and just slowly rolling up, going up one vertebra at a time. Bring your chin to your chest as we roll our shoulders back, finally lifting our head up for Tadasana with your palms facing forward. Just holding for a few deep breaths, feeling your feet nice and grounded onto the ground, onto the earth. From here, we're going to go through some balancing poses. So maybe you might want to find a spot in front of you just to focus on to help you with your balance. Gently pushing the weights onto your left leg. We're going to raise our right leg up, keeping it nice and bent till it's about 90 degrees with our toes flexed and pointing forward. We're going to reach our left arm out and placing our right hand on our right knee and just open up to the side. Getting a nice stretch and with a slight bend in your grounded leg to help with balance. Or bringing it back to center and swapping hands, placing your left hand on your right knee with your right hand pointed out to the side and pulling it over. Coming back to center, and then lower our right foot and move on to the left. Lifting our left leg up, left hand on the left knee, right hand out to the side, and opening up like a little gate. Really focusing on your breath to help you with your balance. Or bringing it over and swapping hands and pulling it over to the right. And then once we come back to center, can lower our feet back down. From here, we're going to go place our feet just a little bit wider with our toes outside of the mat and our heels just inside the mat. And we're going to slowly lower our hips, swaying from side to side as we bring it down for Malasana. Placing our palms together, we're then going to push our knees out and apart, feeling a nice stretch in our hips. And then finally lowering our thumbs all the way down to the mat, placing our toes together, and then bringing them as close to your body as possible. We're then going to push our knees down and lean forward for a little bit of a butterfly stretch. Bringing your chest as close to your feet as you can, and just letting your head hang loose. Slowly coming back up, rolling your back up to straight, head coming up last. We're then going to spread our knees out to the sides as wide as they can go with our heels in line with our knees for frog pose. And then from here, we're going to start off by just gently pushing our hips back as far as they can go. This is quite a bit of an intense stretch, so you might want to be careful. And then once you've gone as far as you can, just holding it for a breath. Before finally now pushing forward, placing your hands out in front of you as far forward as you can lean, and then pushing your hips down forward. Really breathing into the stretch. Trying to relax as much as you can, not holding any tension in your body. Finally coming back up. You're going to meet me by laying down on your back, feet laying out in front of you straight. We just relax our whole body for a second. And then we're going to bring our heels all the way up to our bums, bringing them as close as possible, so maybe you could even touch them if needed. And then we're going to go into a bridge pose, slowly lifting our hips, then our lower back, and then slowly one vertebra at a time as we roll up. So finally tucking our chin into our chest, keeping our knees as straight as close together as possible. And then from here, we're going to go through a bit of a variation of bridge, placing the weights on our right foot, straightening out our left leg as far as it can go, placing it back down and swapping over to the other side. Match your movement with your breath. Inhale to straighten, and exhale to place down. I'm going to do one more time on each side. Straighten your left. Exhale to come down. Inhale to straight. And exhale to come down. And from here, we can just gently lower our backs back onto the mat. And straighten our legs as we prepare for our Shavasana. Closing your eyes if it feels comfortable. Taking a few deep breaths as you feel your whole body relax, all the stretches and movements. Taking some nice deep breaths in and out. Feeling your lungs expand up and sidewards. Or finally sighing it all out. And then gently bringing our consciousness back into our bodies. And maybe introduce some movement, wiggling your fingers and your toes. Maybe even moving your wrists and your ankles. Really just feeling every muscle group that you can. And still keeping your eyes closed. You can either stay lying down or you can move in a seated position, either on your knees or with your legs crossed. We take a last few breaths together before we end this practice. Raising our hands up above our head, palms together before bringing our hands down to heart center. Take one last breath together before bowing and closing our practice. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you found some benefit to this yoga sequence. And then hopefully I'll be able to see you guys again next time on the yoga mat.